Why is death always portrayed as dark, sinister? Why is there heaviness? Why is so much fear attached to it?
So tell us, I'd read that you had one of those near-death experiences. Is that true?
It is.
It is true.
It is.
Tell me.
Well, I had that whole white light thing.
You did? At what point?
After the MRI, I was unconscious in the tube, and then when I came out of it and they talked to me, and then I kind of had that thing where it's sort of like passing out, except you pass kind of up.
You pass up.
Sort of, and you have this big blow-up thing, and you know, I don't know how to...
I don't know. I never had it, so I don't know. I'm waiting on you to tell
Anybody here have it? I don't know. Yeah.
So...
It's been a while now, so it's it's not as fresh for me, but it's just a lot of white light, and you see people that have passed on, and they talk to you, and then you pop right back into your body, and you're awake. And you have I had an incredible sense of well-being, in a sense that it's just so near. It's not a far away or scary thing. And that
you mean death?
Death.
Really?
That it's a very near and safe.
Like it's a breath away.
Yes, it's just right there.
Really?
And that's interesting.
There is no such thing as life and death. Life is death, and death is life. They are not different. It is only a question of the womb, the crawling out, growing up, taking the loan from the planet and putting it back. But it's just life, or it's just death. We need not have invented two words for this. It's just one thing. We can call it the life. Because they're not two different things.
So what happens when we die? It's a question that humanity has wrestled with throughout history. But a new study conducted by NYU may have found some answers.
Probably the most interesting aspect of this is that a small group of them, not everybody, describes a sensation of actually separating from themselves and watching doctors and nurses trying to save their lives, except that they're clinically dead.
In the AWARE study, Dr. Parnia looked at 2,000 cases. Using auditory tests, they timed consciousness for up to 5 minutes after the brain had shut down.
40% of people had a perception of having had awareness, which was phenomenally high. 10% of them had a classical near-death experience, and about 3% of them actually had full consciousness and awareness and could describe things.
And in one man's case, with verifiable accuracy.
He was able to recall details for up to 5 minutes of events that were charted exactly as had occurred, even though the brain shuts down within 2 to 20 seconds.
So that was 5 minutes while he was
He was clinically dead,
while
that's
he was
right.
clinically
That's
dead.
right, while he was dead, and his brain would not have been functioning.
I want the theory of immortality to be a thought that we think about. From a theoretical standpoint, immortality is possible because you have immortality genes. So cancer cells, a lot of them are immortal in that sense because they produce telomere ACE, which is the chemical that lengthens telomeres. And so when we understand that 98.5% of our DNA is unused, and that it's a parts list, it's a library of possibilities. The combinations and sequences are endless. And I think that in those codes are codes for longer lives. I think there are codes for immortality.
The essence of who I am, which is the essence of who you are, is indestructible. I know that directly on a feeling level, and you can also know it even if you talk to a physicist. He will tell you that energy never gets destroyed. It can only transform. So whatever it is that animates this physical form, at some point, whatever it is that animates this physical form is going to no longer animate this form. Both my parents died within a space of a few months. And I saw very clearly, each time I saw that my mother's body lying there. A few months later, I saw my father's body lying in the coffin. And I realized the form was still there, but the essence of that being was not present. So the essence of that being was never the form. It was gone. It was no longer there. And then when that which animates the form...
The essence of that being was never the form.
Never.
The essence of that being inhabited the form.
Yes, because...
And now it no longer inhabited the form.
So you could see there was only a shell there.
Right.
And it's such a clear realization.
Yeah, many people who've seen their loved ones in the casket see that.
Yes. So that which was the life within that form was always invisible. All you could ever see was the form. Maybe you could sense the life within the form, but the life is always invisible. And the life ultimately has no form itself. And so you see, suddenly somebody dies, the essence is gone, the life within the form is gone.
If you close your eyes and sit, right now you're looking at me. If you close your eyes, you cannot see me. But you are still there, isn't it? So right now, is it you who is looking at me? Or is it your eyes which are looking at me? So it's you who is looking at me.
Yeah.
Through the window of your eyes, you're looking at me. If you close the window, do you still exist?
I still exist.
So, you are clearly saying you are much more than the body, isn't it?
Yes.
And you also know very clearly that this body you slowly accumulated.
Yes.
Or in other words, what you call as my body is just a bit of loan that you have taken from Mother Earth, just a piece of the planet. She's pretty generous.
No, it's very generous. Yeah.
She's pretty generous with the loan. But when the time comes, she wants to collect it atom by atom. See, now I hold this pebble in my hand.
Yeah.
Initially I say, this is my pebble, I'm not willing to give it to you. After some time, I start thinking, this is me. Now when the time comes that anyway this pebble is going to be taken from me, I am being terrorized because I am being taken away. You are not being taken away. Only the food that you gathered, the piece of planet that you gathered in the form of this body, the planet is asking it back. If only you were aware this is only something I've accumulated, not intellectually. Every moment if you are constantly aware that I am not this body, this is just mine, all right. It's just a gathering. I've accumulated this, I'll use it, and when it's necessary, I'll drop it. If this awareness was there all the time in your life, death would be just change of clothes, isn't it? It's actually more simple than that. So what happens after? Okay, I paid back the loan. The question is only willingly or unwillingly, but whichever way, the loan gets taken. Your body, as you know it, physical body, has to go to the earth because it belongs to the earth. But there is a subtler body which is like a scaffolding. Only because the subtle body is there as a scaffolding, you can build this gross body. You eat a banana, it becomes body, you eat a piece of bread, it becomes body, you eat a brinjal, it becomes body, because there is a subtler scaffolding. This body that you see, the physical body, is only gathering around the subtler body. So when this body falls, the subtle body, which is generally referred to as etheric body or whatever else, is still on. It still has some information.
You are someone who truly believes you have lived past lives.
Oh, no question.
One of those past lives?
Probably many in Atlantis.
In Atlantis. So when you got off the plane, did it feel like going to any airport, or did something strike you?
Struck me later. But let me just say, Matt, you know, when you get older, the short-term memory has its problems. I've got incredible long-term memory. Now it's going not only to my childhood this time around, it's going to other lifetimes a long time ago.
Help me understand, because I've never actually asked you this. When you start to have these feelings or these thoughts connecting with a past life, are they subtle moments, or do they hit you like a brick?
With me, it's subtle. It's kind of emotional picture facts. You know you've felt this somewhere else. By the way, I've had past life experiences in damn near every country I've been to. And you know I'm a guerrilla traveler.
Facts and belief. I know the religious people believe, the scientist says prove. What do you believe? What do you think happens when we die?
Well, so I can make some unassailable statements about what happens when you die. So you spend your life eating food. Food has a calorie content, and calorie is a source of energy. Calorie is a unit of energy. You bring it in, and then the energy is available for you to maintain your body temperature at nearly 100 degrees. It's 98.6. How do you keep something at 100 degrees when nothing else around you is? You're burning energy to sustain that, because biologically we need to be at that temperature to function, okay? You also need energy to walk and to move. That's why you eat food. The moment you die, what happens? You don't maintain the energy. Your temperature drops. How far does it drop? To room temperature. At a funeral, in the casket, if you touch the hand of the person in the casket, your first thought is, the body's cold. No, it's not. It's room temperature. But it's cold compared to 100 degrees. They're no longer burning this energy. Okay, so now, every one of your molecules has energy within it. If you get cremated, that energy gets released in the form of heat. And you heat the air, and that air radiates to space. You get buried, which is how I want my body to be disposed of. Bury me. Bury me. Because you know why? I don't want the energy content of my body to just get radiated out into space, of no use to anybody. Put me in the ground. Let the worms, microbes, come in and out of my body. And the energy content of my body that I had assembled over my lifetime, consuming the flora and fauna of this earth, my body then returns to them. And thus is the cycle of life. I know that's going to happen because you can measure where the energy goes. And that's how I want to go out.
There was a beautiful being in Vancouver, Joyce Frazee, passed away recently. She had come to many of our gatherings, and she herself had become an effective teacher. And her form, through an illness, began to dissolve. And as it began to dissolve, and she found it more and more difficult to move, she would still come to our gatherings. More and more, the light of consciousness was shining through the fading form. And looking into her eyes was beautiful. I hope somebody took a photo of her so that you can look into her eyes and see that the unconditioned, the light of the unconditioned was shining through her eyes, and through her entire form there was it was shining through. And that is the beauty, that is the death. When death comes, that's the greatest portal. And she was able to surrendered to that, so it was open wide. And it didn't matter anymore how much longer this form would be here. The flowering had happened. The fulfillment, consciousness flowering through this form. It happened. It doesn't need more time. It's flowered. It's the whole evolutionary impulse of the universe is towards that. Somehow, and I cannot explain it in words, it's beyond, we don't even attempt to really understand what is behind that. It is far beyond understanding, but it's just to say that there is the evolutionary impulse of the universe is behind that. Consciousness wants to flower through the form, the human. It will flower through any form. It doesn't say you are more worthy than this, I will choose this form because you are more worthy. It flowers where there is a transparency, where the form, the rigid mind structures give way. They die first. Identification with that, me, mind-made self, goes. And this is why we are here, because as you sit here, you are finding death before death finds you. And the mind structures that you are identified with as me, the thought forms die. And so the flowering is happening here before death finds you. You embrace death already. But it doesn't matter when it happens. And consciousness will move through. It could be a criminal, killed several people, inflicted suffering on others, and of course on himself. And in that midst of hell, in his cell, waiting for execution, suddenly, inside, the entire structure of the self, mental, emotional structures, dissolves because the suffering is unbearable. And suddenly, something shines through. And now he doesn't care anymore whether the execution happens or not. And there have been cases like that. There was a woman in Texas 2 or 3 years ago who had killed 2 people with an axe. She had been a prostitute, a drug addict, and with her lover killed 2 people with an axe. And she was on death row for several years. And at some point something happened in her, and the surrender happened. And suddenly there was a being of great softness, beauty, through. There was not, the strange thing is there was not even guilt anymore, because guilt is still to be identified with unconscious movements as me, to derive your sense of self from the movement of unconsciousness and saying, I did that, that was me. She saw the dreadful nature of that, but it no longer disturbed her peace. That wasn't her at all. That was not the consciousness that had now emerged. And then she was executed. She interpreted it in a Christian sense, I believe, because that was her surrounding culture. When this happens, sometimes when people speak about it and tell others about what happened to them, they may use certain words that correspond to their language or culture. But when you look beyond the words, you will see that they all point to the same. And there are some of those to whom it happens who can't even speak about it. They just look at you, and you look at them. They may be uneducated, they may not have much to say, and yet you look and you see there's something that shines through that is deeper than a person and any person could be. The personal dimension has given way to that. And so it is sacred when that happens. But so far it's been relatively few human beings to whom this has happened. No longer the case now. It is the destiny of all humans to go through that transformation.
And then reincarnation.
You want to come back now? So if there is substantial amount of information still stored, which is the karma, the karmic substance is still strong, then once, suppose you left out of feebleness of energy, that is, you became old, energies became feeble and it rested for some time. So this kind of life energy just rests for some time without too much activity. But suppose the energies did not become feeble, but you broke the body by accident or suicide, or somebody shot you in the head, or somebody broke your heart, whichever way you broke the body and you left, energies were still intense. Now, this will take a long time for it to become feeble without the body and the mind. If you had a regular body and the discriminatory mind, let us say you would have worked out your karma in the next 10 years and made the energies feeble. But now that you don't have a body, these 10 years may telescope into 1,000 years. So this is the reason always they told you should never die of suicide, you never should be murdered, accidental death is bad, because now your limbo situation is long, very, very long, because you have no discriminatory mind, we don't know which way you will roll, and the chances of finding another womb are very little because you're in a certain level of intensity you cannot find. So unless you come to the right level of intensity, you are not suitable to take on a new body. So if you died of old age, energies became feeble, everything is fine with your body, you went to bed and you never woke up. Such a person may get back into another womb within 48 hours. But a person who died by breaking his body, either by accident or otherwise, this person may take we don't know how long, depending upon what level of intensity and how much of the information is still there, unworked out.